reserve, now 7.7 million strong, to be guerrilla forces after the unification. What would you propose? That how do we disarm them? How do we pacify them so that they will not become a continuing security threat for the united Korea?
Well, I think you've highlighted two areas that we really need to focus on. One is you need to learn from history. What has worked in the past and what hasn't worked in the past. That's one of the reasons why in almost every talk that I talk about the devastation of World War I and World War II. Because we really need to understand what the past was like. The past was extremely violent. Just think of what 2.8% of the population is today with 4 billion people on the planet. I can't even get my head around that number. 75 million is devastating enough. 2.8% of 4 billion is a number that you can't get your head around. And so since 1945 with the advent of nuclear weapons, major powers have not fought major powers. So I think that's one item, is learning from history, and the other is when the senior leaders of our government are together, it is not just a military solution. Nothing is just a military solution. It's a whole of government approach as we look forward to what is the best way to move these things forward.
Peter, come to the microphone, please. Microphone.
Speak from here. I have heard very encouraging analysis. The U.S. will to defend South Korea, for example, our allies. That's good to hear, but somehow I am chronic warrior. That has nothing to do with my age. Actually, a lot of people from Korea say the same thing that I'm worried about. What I'm worried about is this. U.S. is doing its best to defend South Korea from North Korean attack. But we have done that for the last at least 20 years. And when we had a chance to defeat North Korea's nuclear program, for example, in 1994, we were worried about expanding war. And that's the same thing that U.S. leaders are worried about. We don't want to start a war because it will result in thousands and perhaps millions of dead and injured. So what's basically happening now is that we wait until North Korea attacks and we send B-1B, B-2, nuclear submarine, nuclear aircraft, all the things, and scare North. But North Korea is not worried because they are not going to attack us while we are ready to attack them. They will continue to become until they are nuclear ready. What is that called? De facto nuclear state. They come to the level of China and Russia so that United States cannot deal with it. That's the thing they are waiting for. So that's why I'm worried, and then a lot of mostly older Koreans who experience North Korea, they are worried about it, and they say that South Korea will become like Vietnam, because North Korea will, for example, deal with chemical and biological weapons. They will strike South Korea's nuclear power plants, for example, which is easy for them to do. But we don't have anything to do now. We just keep waiting. And last 20 years we waited, and then I'm afraid we wait another, we don't have to wait long. It's a matter of 2 to 5 years. So I'm really getting worried.
Okay, so let me try to make you sleep better tonight.
Thank you.
I think that's part of my job. The commitment we've had to our friends and ally in South Korea has been there since the end of the Korean War. And since the war has never ended, we have been there the entire time. So I think 28,500 troops is a lot of troops to have on the peninsula on a continual basis. But more importantly, we have a lot of family members. So we talk about the capability of North Korea and what that capability will look like in 5 to 10 years. One is crossing the nuclear threshold will have devastating results. You've highlighted the reason why, when you look at our triad, why each of the legs are important. Because you never want to be blackmailed by another country. That's why having a bomber that can penetrate enemy airspace and always get to the target is important. That's why having a sub that's survivable is really important. That's why having 400 missiles in the heartland of America is really important. You cannot be blackmailed when you have 400 missiles, because without the ICBM force, we're down to about 8 strategic targets. When you take out bomber bases, and when you take out the sub bases, and you look at our infrastructure, you're down to a handful, less than 10, which then tells you the importance of the ICBM force on half that. So I think for you to sleep better is the commitment of the United States to support an ally. With the people that are there, located on the peninsula, the people that we have located in Japan, the people that we have located at Guam, and everyone that we have back in the United States to provide that capability. It's a steadfast commitment to the Korean people.
Would you come up to the microphone, please?
General, thank you for your comments today. My name is Sarah Vogler. I'm from the Center for Naval Analyses. My question is, one of the issues that I grapple with is that we've talked about today is some would suggest that we've lost some of our assurance, or perhaps we've lost some of our deterrence. I'm not really sure how such things can be measured. How do we know when we've lost assurance or deterrence? With the activities that North Korea undertakes, whether it be a missile test or a nuclear test, when you're considering options for a response, how do you gauge whether it's to fly a B-1 or to fly a B-52? How do you kind of weigh those response options, and how do you present that?
Well, I'll say it's kind of easy. You find out what the combatant commander, what is the combatant commander's objective? So the combatant commander says what he or she is trying to accomplish, and then it's up to each of the services that provide those forces to the combatant commander. So it's really his or her choice. Each weapon system has a different capability, and those capabilities are then measured against the target you want to hit, and then those are provided up the chain, and then a decision is made to do it. So we have a pretty rigorous process on both sides. One is, what capabilities does the combatant commander want, is part of the calculus. The other calculus is, what is the target you're trying to take out? And you want to have a probability of destruction of a really high number so that the target isn't there. And then that goes into a rigid process that we have in every combatant commander. Every combatant commander has targeting boards to figure out what the targeting is. Every combatant commander has airmen, sailors, soldiers, Marines. So we know what the capability each of our services provide, and that goes into the calculus on what's selected.
Do you have follow-up?
So it's a pretty rigorous process that we have.
Yes, I understand the process, the programmatics. I guess
This isn't the programmatics, I'm talking the operational piece.
Yes, I'm sorry, I used
Yeah.
one more. The operational piece, but then tying that into the larger strategic objective, which is to either enhance deterrence or re-emphasize assurance.
That's why we have a chairman of the Joint Chiefs, combatant commanders, and a president of the United States. That's really the job of the chairman. You know, what the chairman does is he elicits advice from the Joint Chiefs of Staff. And the Joint Chiefs of Staff, just for everyone, is made up of the Chief of Staff of the Air Force, the Chief of Staff of the Army, the CNO, the Commandant of the Marine Corps, and then the National Guard Bureau, who has a 4-star that sits there. He gets the best military advice. And then there are meetings along the way. There's deputy committee meetings, there's principal committee meetings, and then it goes to the National Security Council staff. And at the National Security Staff is where you have the Secretary of Defense, the Secretary of State, you have the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs, and the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs is that single voice that goes forward on all these activities.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, please come to the microphone.
Thank you, General. Leanne from Voice of
Would you
America.
please speak a little louder?
Okay. The current Defense Minister, Ash Carter, actually advocated to have a preemptive strike against those missiles in North Korea, which were capable of carrying nuclear warheads, together with William Perry, I think, in 2006. And I'm wondering, given the fears that many South Koreans have about the capability of North Korea, I'm just wondering why the United States hasn't been considering a preemptive strike against those nuclear assets in North Korea.
That is a great question to ask the Secretary of Defense. Well, one thing I want to get across, going to war isn't something that should be thought lightly. People die in war, and we need to understand that, and it's really, really messy. So let me go back in history. There's a great picture, and you just need to go online and Google World War I, and everyone was going off to World War I, and they thought they were going to be home by Christmas. And people were kind of happy, if you kind of look at the pictures back then. And the problem is, no matter how surgical you want to make it, and we do work really hard because we do believe in humanitarian. We do not attack civilians. We try not to. So when you look at an attack on a sovereign nation, you need to be able to walk that dog many different steps because people die. And when I think about people dying, I think of the airmen that I work with every single day, that you need to make a decision that is the best decision that you can make. I also think of my son when he was on a submarine in the Pacific. So I think when we talk about going to war, it is not as simple as going to war, watching the movie, and in 2 hours it's over. It is really important. We talk about, someone asked the question about how do we know deterrence works? Crossing the nuclear threshold is a threshold that has not been crossed. That's how you know deterrence works. How do you assure countries? There's many different ways to assure countries. I think when it comes to South Korea, when you have over 100,000 Americans and family members there, that shows commitment to the peninsula. Because our families are living side by side with your families. So we know it is your home. And to be honest, when we're stationed overseas, it's our home.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. My name is Byung-Gu Lee from Korean National Defense University and a Business College of Johns Hopkins University. And my question is about what further steps should or will the United States take in terms of enhancing its nuclear extended deterrence in Asia. The reason I'm asking is because a lot of people are talking about the difference in terms of Asia and Europe. In Asia and Europe, in terms of U.S. nuclear deterrence posture. In Europe, high-level institutionalization, let's say, nuclear sharing mechanisms among the United States and its allies in Europe, and the presence of tactical weapons. But in Asia, U.S. reliance on strategic weapons, known tactical weapons, and lower level of institutionalization. In 2010, Japan and South Korea and the United States, Japan and the United States, and South Korea and the United States initiate some institutionalization of such movements, but it has made some progress, but a lot to take in the future. So in the coming years, in the several years to come, what kind of measures the United States should or will take in terms of to enhance its visualization of the nuclear deterrence posture in this region?
Well, as I mentioned before, I think our deterrent posture is going to be ironclad as we go into the future. You'll have to ask the new administration on, how the administration is going to take some of these actions forward. One thing I would like to mention is we have a lot of talk, and I hear the word sometimes with strategic weapons as well as tactical weapons. A nuclear weapon is a nuclear weapon. And the dual capability that the United States have with B-52s as well as B-2 bombers that are stationed in Guam provide that capability. Because what you're asking for is a deterrent capability, not a specific platform. And that's what's really important as we have this dialogue. So I believe the commitment is ironclad. What the next administration is gonna do, we'll have to watch and see what happens in 2 weeks from today. And then from that, they'll come up with what their procedures are and how we're gonna move forward. What I don't see changing is our commitment to South Korea and our friends in the ROC. That will not change. That's commitment is steadfast.
General Chen, I give the last order before it hits.
I think what he was asking was the level of discussion that has been occurring compared to Europe and Northeast Asia. Nuclear sharing. It is my understanding that countries like Germany have a more in-depth relationship concerning nuclear capabilities than countries like Korea or Japan. So I think what he was referring to is the possibility of that kind of change in the level of discussion in the future. How do you foresee that?
We'll see what the next administration does. I know there are a lot of discussions that occur that don't get on the front page of the news or get to Twitter. So, a lot of activities are under discussion in order to support and find out what the best way forward.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, let's give General Weinstein a big round of applause. Thank you very much. Now, I have a small token for you. This is, I'm sure your name is.
Oh, my name is spelled correctly. Good.
That's good.
Excellent.
And I passed. And then this is the US-Korea
Oh,
Kachikapsta. Let's go together. So when you go out in the sun, in the summer, and